If you're a shield bro or you just love pretty birds, the Guardian is for you. But this misunderstood bird is definitely a grower, not a shower, as he starts out pretty weak, but with the right relics becomes almost as good as the Raider. Almost. Let's go. So I was pretty harsh on the Guardian in the intro, but he is actually a fantastic character. He has the highest starting HP and a heavily shield-focused Nightfarer, but unlike the Raider that has similar starting stats to the Guardian, they both have high strength and high HP. The Raider is significantly more offensive-focused and simply about taking damage into their health for that retaliate skill or using, say, colossal weapons with very high amounts of poise, whereas the Guardian is all about defensive capabilities and taking damage into your shield via your stamina and then using the Steel Guard passive to minimize the impact of those hits. The Guardian excels for any player that really likes to guard counter, critical hits, use shields, absolutely loves halberds as that's the Guardian's preferred weapon, so you'll definitely find a lot of halberds while you're out exploring. Something to note about the Guardian, however, is that there is a distinct lack of mobility and FP with the Guardian. This means that quicker moving bosses or flying enemies can be very tricky for the Guardian to deal with, and this particularly is very beneficial for the Guardian to have either an Iron Eye or a Recluse, a ranged character in their party, just to help offset that issue. For the attributes for the Guardian, you start out with S HP, C FP, A Stamina, B Strength, and then C across the boards for the rest except Intelligence D. So realistically, strength-based weapons should be your focus here, along with a shield to compare. So for your skills, starting out with the passive, we have Steel Guard. You plant your feet and brace with a shield for a more powerful guard. In order to trigger this guard effect, you need to hold down the guard button and then press the dodge button while flicking the left stick in any direction, and you'll move into like a deeper guarding stance. You can easily tell when the Guardian's in this because he sort of like locks himself down to like a much slower stance, and you can move much slower while you're in this stance compared to like typical guarding. You'll definitely know when you're in it. It greatly increases your guard boost, but prevents you from running or really moving anywhere. And that's where a lot of the movement issues come from the Guardian, is you're going to be in this stance quite regularly. While you're in this stance, it does drain your stamina anytime you take hits into your shield, and just generally it will drain your stamina. Now this will block anything except for grab attacks and larger AoEs. Just keep that in mind that you can't Steel Guard past grab attacks, as you'll still get eaten up. I learned that out the hard way. Whirlwind is the skill to beat your wings to whip up a wind churning cyclone. The length of this is quite, in terms of duration, is quite short, but it can be charged to enlarge its radius, and with the right skills you can actually make this last significantly longer, and for smaller enemies you can essentially just lock them in a stagger animation while they're inside it, which makes it very beneficial, especially when you do charge it for that lighter radius while you're just farming all the trash enemies and like the smaller bosses. It's a really powerful skill. It's less powerful for bosses because it's really only in those cases just really used for the chip damage that it's doing, which isn't, you know, nothing to sneeze at. Any damage is good damage. But in some of the fights, say against the Night Lords, and they're moving around a lot because of the stationary nature of this ability and the wind up time to like charge it, and enemies are just going to move out of it anyway. Not something you'll typically use a lot in larger boss encounters. The ultimate, Wings of Salvation, is one you'll definitely be using in boss encounters. You leap up in the air and you dive back down, raising a protective area. Something to note about this ultimate is that in my experience so far, I often see it used as a damaging ability. It does do decent damage, don't get me wrong, but the benefit and the real value out of Guardian isn't from the damage it does. One, if you use this ability, it's a great repositioning tool, as you can reposition yourself up in the air and slam yourself down. It has an additional effect that it will revive allies unless they're like pips, they've got like completely maxed out with all three. It will revive them unless it's not completely maxed out. So it's basically a free revive mechanic, and because you're immune during this animation, you can easily trigger this effect and get this off, land yourself up in the air, deal some decent damage, and revive your allies. That's the main way you should be using it. However, something to note is that this can also be charged. Now, if you hold down the ultimate using ability during that entire animation, when you slam back down on the ground, you can stay in that animation. When you have landed and you're in that spot, you're immune from damage and you're immobile. So you can't take damage while you're in that sphere, and what will happen is that enemy attacks will like rebound off you. Some of the larger attacks will still hit you, right? But just like standard weaker attacks won't. You'll be like stuck in that invulnerability state. When you're like this, you will actually give give your allies a defensive buff while this is happening. This can be buffed as well to like say restore HP with certain relics as well. So there's a lot of benefits to this skill from a supporting perspective, less so from a damaging perspective, though it does do some fantastic damage. So think about it as that use as being able to revive allies, then hold it down so that they can get a little bit of health back, they get that defense, they can sort of set themselves to get back into the fight before you jump back up and join them. The run progression for the Guardian, there's really two things that you should be on the lookout for, and then the rest is kind of passive bonuses. The two things you should be looking for is a better shield or upgrade the shield you have, and a thrusting weapon. So in terms of the shield, right, like it doesn't really matter what shield you use. The starting shield with the Guardian is like completely fine to use and just upgrade with a stone 1 and then a smithing stone 2 if you do go into the mines and grab one to upgrade it via that method. Realistically, it's just to increase that guard boost because you're not using it for anything else. It's just simply to block. So if you do find another shield, you can definitely switch to it. Something to note, by the way, about shields in Elden Ring Nightreign is that unlike Elden Ring, all the shields here have 100 physical damage negation. So they will all completely block any physical damage that you are taking. They all have various stats in terms of the other types of damaging effects, which you can view at the training grounds or looking at all the shields. But because they have 100% physical damage negation, the key stat to pay attention to is that guard boost. The higher the guard boost, the less stamina you will use when you're blocking with that shield in steel guard and vice versa when you're just simply blocking. So typically you want a great shield here because they have a higher guard boost, but regardless of what shield it is, it may have like a status effect on it. Like I did have a good run with the ant shield that has like the poison status effect on it, so I was applying poison with that. Realistically, it doesn't matter as long as it's got good guard boost and a decent shield. You definitely want to be using it, and I do recommend to always use a shield here because you just lose half of the value of the reason you're running Guardian if you aren't running a shield. Like if you're just going to like two-hand a halberd or use a colossal weapon, whatever, you may as well play Raider. The reason you play this character is for the shield benefits as well as the guard countering. Now the other aspect of this is looking for a piercing weapon. That can be a halberd, that can be a spear, a great spear, whatever it is, but you want a piercing weapon so that you can hold your shield active in block or with steel guard active and be able to poke through it so you can still deal damage in that way. And then outside of that, realistically, you want to find as many bonuses like passive buffs to your stamina as possible because you're going to be eating through that stamina very quickly while you're holding up your shield and while you're poking through it. The more stamina you have, the longer you can tank that damage into your stamina. And then HP and poise is still pretty solid as well. And then for your weapon passives, you're either looking for things that improve your guard countering or your blocking bonuses. Things like that is the overall kit that you want for the Guardian. Secondarily though, warming stones are actually very useful for the Guardian because you're often very stationary here, standing in one spot. Dropping a warming stone on your feet, which will just give you HP regeneration, definitely valuable. Same with running incantations that add effects to the ground. Like, there are holy incantations that will activate an effect on the ground that you can simply stand in, similar to the warming stone. So those kind of seals, if you find ones that have those effects, they're not too bad. But for the most part here, you're really just looking for a shield and a piercing weapon, typically a halberd. The best relics for the Guardian mostly come from his remembrances, so we'll completely go through that in a moment. But firstly, go to the jar vendor and grab the polished drizzling scene. This has draw enemy attention while guarding on it. It's a fantastic relic to run for your Guardian early in your Guardian's experience while you're still working through the remembrances, because you want to be drawing that attention as the Guardian. You want enemies to be attacking you. This can absolutely help with that, plus the vigor to increase your HP isn't bad. The best relic though, just overall for the Guardian, is the stone stake, which you get as the first relic unlock from the remembrance for the Guardian at 3. And in order to do this, you simply need to kill the Guardian in Limveld. You can do this solo. I did this solo. It's very easy to go run in there and kill the golem in just a run. Like, just level yourself up a little bit and then go fight the golem. And then all you have to do at the end of that run is just simply die to the Night Lord. It'll fail the run, but you'll still get to keep the stone stake to go back to your remembrances. Now, once you've unlocked this, it does increase the duration of the character skill of Whirlwind. This is how I was talking about earlier in the video, that Whirlwind can last an extremely long time, especially when charged. It's just so beneficial. Like, you can see the difference here in terms of when you have this active and when you don't. When you don't have it active, Whirlwind lasts like a second. When you have it active, it's like 4 to 5. Like, it's so much longer, so much more beneficial to have it. Plus the second effect on this reduces the cooldown by +3. So you can just constantly spam it and it lasts so long. It's just extremely beneficial. At Remembrance step 6 here, you get the Guardian Chalice, which is that additional chalice you can get that has the white relic slot. This will then allow you to equip any of of your relics in that white slot, so it's definitely the best chalice to run for the Guardian. Now, at the next step after that, at I believe it's step 8, you will then need to return to Limveld and talk to the demon vendor and ask him for a tome. This tome costs you 10,000 runes. You can absolutely do this solo again. This creates a whirlwind while charging your halberd attacks. Because this is red, just like the stone stake, I have lent stone stake because it's just kind of better because of whirlwind's like length of how long it lasts. But if you prefer, you could run the 3rd volume instead. After this point, as you get onto the last step, for the Guardian, you'll get the Witch's Brooch, which is a fantastic blue relic that the Guardian slowly restores nearby allies' HP while the art is active. That's again how I was talking about earlier with the Wings of Salvation ultimate. While you're holding it active to land yourself on the ground, you're holding it to like buff your allies, their HP will restore in that animation, and you will reflect a portion of damage received when an ability is activated as well as the Guardian. So both are really beneficial, and the Guardian's remembrances overall pretty easy to do. Simply to progress it, if you're at a step that isn't like a remembrance you can enter, all you need to do is defeat a Night Lord as the Guardian, and you'll progress to the next step. It's a very easy remembrance to do, and one you should absolutely focus on very early if you are playing as the Guardian, because the benefits of these relics are just so strong. Otherwise, for relics, you're really looking for things that increase, say, your critical hit, your guard boost, your guard countering abilities. Endurance and stamina also beneficial, plus anything that buffs your allies can definitely go quite a long way because of how supportive the Guardian is focused. A couple of tips for playing as the Guardian. I would recommend to hold your shield as often as possible and use those piercing weapons. You could absolutely run something else if you wanted to, but simply just running around, holding your shield, blocking all the damage into it, hoping that enemies are attacking you so you can tank those hits is beneficial. But ultimately, really, there isn't a lot to say about the Guardian. He's a pretty simple kit to get used to, especially if you liked using shields in Elden Ring. It's just that understanding that you need to hold the shield button and then dodge down to Steel Guard, which makes your guarding so much more beneficial, but it does slow your movement speed so much. So comboing this with an Ionite, Recluse are really good, as well as say even something like a Duchess is pretty handy here because of the status effects. They can help alleviate the lack of damage that the Guardian often has by offsetting it with status effects that they can apply and using the restage ability to apply them again. A lot of synergies with both the ranged characters and someone like a Duchess to run with the Guardian. But let me know your Guardian tips in the comments down below, anything that I have missed, so we can all become better Guardian players together. And I'll link another guide right here for you if you want to go and watch another Nightfarer guide. But thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.